Run your law firm the right way.
All right, so Johnnie Finch is going to do his MaxLawCon presentation for us. I'm going to let you go ahead and just introduce yourself to everybody.
Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Johnnie Finch, and I am a North Carolina native, a criminal defense attorney, and I'm happy you guys had me here. I would have prepared. I would love to have been in St. Louis, but I guess North Carolina at my own office is gonna have to do today.
Awesome. All right, so if you just want to tell everybody what you're going to discuss today, and then you can just take it away.
Sure. All right, guys. When I was asked to do a segment last year, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Jim, my good friend, said, "What about recovering from a loss?" And at that particular point in time, I was like, "I'm just so happy that you would ask me to come, so I'll do whatever." But when I thought about it, if there's anything I know how to do, it is how to take a L, because I've taken a lot of them. And so while I'm here today, the name of the title is Recovering from a Loss, What I Know About It. And I want to start slightly with a news story that I have. When I first heard about the topic, it was one place, and now that we have everything that's going on with the world today, obviously it's went totally left. My topic and my subject matter has gone totally left. One, because I have so much time on my hands. Now, I promise you I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to keep you guys long, but it's just, with the social distancing, I've had way too much time to think about this. At any time you guys have questions, please go ahead and chime in. And I will try my best to be directly focused on the subject. If I veer off, just let me know, because again, I've had a lot of time to key in on this subject matter that we have today. I do want to start with a story for you guys, a true story of mine about a month and a half ago. And just to let you know, guys, I'm talking all about mental health today. Mental health is the topic. So whatever I speak about, just focus on the mental health aspect. I was at a random bar. I was getting chicken wings at the local pub. I saw a friend of mine, well, not a friend of mine, a lawyer that I knew in the community. And we had our first conversation. I ended up staying longer and speaking with him. We talked about court. We talked about the day-to-day. We talked about other lawyers, just lawyer talk and everything that goes along. We ended up going to the same law school. He was about 3 years older than me. And at the end of the night, I had his number, and I was like, "Hey, man, if you're ever out, let me know. I don't mind coming out, because a lot of times I'm coming into town between 7 and 9 on Thursdays." He was like, "Thursday night is my night." And while I'm there, I can tell this is kind of his place, because everybody that's coming up to him, they're speaking to him and say, "Hey, how you doing?" So I leave that day thinking, "Oh, man, I got a new friend that I can kind of call, because I haven't been in this town as long." Fast forward to the next day, I get a call from a mutual friend of ours that I didn't know was a mutual friend. And he says, "Hey, Johnny, how you doing?" I was like, "Nothing else." I know it was a text message. He was like, "Call me." So I called him, and he said, "Hey, man, the guy you were talking to last night?" He was like, "Yeah." He was like, "He committed suicide." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "The guy you were talking to last night?" I was like, "The guy I was talking to last night," and I actually didn't have his name. I wasn't sure about his name, but I knew I had talked to him for an hour, 15 minutes and everything. He was like, "Yeah, they just found out." I was like, "Nah, that's not the case. There's no way that is the case." And shortly after that, because he had been in this town a long time, I started getting text after text after text. There was another friend of mine that was with us that night, and I know him very well. So I called him, and I was like, "Hey," because he stayed longer than I stayed. I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "Man, I do not know. I do not know." Turns out it was true. And obviously that was a shocker, because I'm having a conversation with someone that is so normal, so lawyer normal, I should say, so lawyer normal. He was in good spirits. No indicators to me that within 8 hours that this gentleman wouldn't be here anymore. And so that led us to the mental health aspect, and just being aware about why we're talking about this today. That's exactly why we're talking about this today. Okay. So that is the first little segment. I'm going into the second segment. And when I do segments, I do it like this, guys. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm gonna try to keep you focused. At any time you guys hit the gavel, let me know and just say, Johnny, go back. I will go back to the first. So the first segment is why we're here is because that was an issue for me. Because like-minded people in this profession, I don't feel like we should be doing things like that. Now, I didn't know a lot about this gentleman or a lot about his background, but it just, my thought was it the profession? I didn't know him before the profession, but was it something about what we do that led his mental health to take him to a spot where he felt like, that was the course that he needed to take? And obviously, with the work that we do and the amount of people that we help, we would hope that the stresses that come along with it won't take us to that spot. And so while we're here and I am attempting to help you guys today, this is a great help for me because obviously speaking about this, in which we don't get to talk about our problems a lot or talk about issues that we have a lot because we are always listening, is therapeutic for me, and we'll talk more about that as well. So just a little bit more about me, part 2. I am about to be 40 years old. I am, law was my second career. I started law school around 28 years old, finished around 31, started practicing around 32. So I've been practicing about 7 years now. What I will say is before law practice, I never felt like I had stress problems. No doctor had ever told me, hey, Johnny, you have problems with stress, dealing with stress, and I had never been diagnosed with any type of mental issue before law school, okay? Now, then there's post-law school or in law school, I felt like was the first time I started dealing with stress. I will say after I started practicing, I soon got married and had kids. So what I can say about my wife and kids are personally, and this is what I know about mental health, they are a stress relief for me personally. My wife and kids are a time when I can kind of step away from everything. So they don't cause stress on my life. And then I have to look to the least common denominator, which would be the practice of law, which I actually love, but it comes with a lot of issues. So I say all this to say is all the stress that I've had or ever had to deal with have come from being in the profession. And so to that, I say, while I have no formal training, I have street training in the stresses that law practice can bring. And so if I say anything that is incorrect as far as mental health goes, I'm sorry. I am speaking from my own personal experiences. I do not mean to offend anybody in any way. As a matter of fact, if I say anything, please hit the chat and we can stop and we can have a conversation about it right now, as opposed to you guys going saying that jerk Johnny was saying X, Y, Z. One thing I will say is that in law school, there was a certain type of anxiety that I may have felt from actually trying to get past the test and pass the bar and do all of those things. And then when law practice actually started, I would say that was more of a stress, because at that particular point in time, it was no longer about me. I think I could always kind of handle it. If I didn't pass the test, then naturally I flunked and then we just deal with the next thing. But once people's issues were outside of myself, and to someone who empathizes big time, I had to learn, or my body or my mental capacities found a way to take all the stress that people were having and kind of put it on my back and walk with it and deal with it, which is a strength, but it's also a weakness, because when do you get that off of your back? Is it off of your back when the case is over, or do you kind of act like it's not there anymore? And through what I'll tell you later on, when I was able to get some counseling, I was able to find that there were certain ways that I was dealing with the amount of stress that was on my back that was not the best way to deal with it, and it kind of put me in a crazy place. So recovering from a loss, what I know about that, and what I did, because I was given the topic, which was good, and I didn't think about it. I kind of looked up the definition, because that's what we tend to do as lawyers. So what is a loss? A loss is a fact or process of losing. And recovering, returning to a normal state of health, mind, or strength. And that is tricky, because if we're recovering and we're returning to a normal state, which normal state is that? Is for Johnny, is that the state before, the normal state I was at before I started law school, or is that the normal state now as I practice law, right? And I have given up on the dream of returning back to the normal state of before law practice. And so when I deal with the normal state, I say, right here where I am right now, as far as the amount of stress that I deal with. So I say part 2 and segment 2, because while we're talking about incurring a loss at some point, when we have to deal with that loss, it's plus the stress level that you already have. So there's the stress level here of law practice that you're automatically going to have. I believe they said 74% of people have these stresses that they deal with. And so if something traumatic happens, you lose a family member, or anything that could be extra, you have to deal with all that. And you have to recover from that loss and get back to the normal state, which would normally be stress anyway. So I think part 2 was just letting you know, when I say get back to normal, I mean normal abilities and able to, that put you in a place to be able to help your clients, effectively help your family, and be healthy at the same time while you deal with all of the issues that you go through. Generally, what I do if I'm looking to find a model for success is I look personally to athletes, because with athletes, you can see the beginning and the end most of the time. You can see when an athlete is, their training rituals. You can see them in the game. You can see their stats from year to year. You can see how many championships they got. If something happened traumatic, you see after that period where they still able to maintain the level of superiority that they had before. And it's also exciting at the same time. Of course, it's 2020, and we had our athletic community took a major loss this year. That was one of Mr. Kobe Bryant. And man, I tell you, that shook me up. And I think it shook many people up who weren't even big sports fans, just because he was just the staple. Even if you didn't hear his name, or even if you didn't watch him play, you just always heard his name, Kobe Bryant this, Kobe Bryant this, no matter what you thought about him, you knew who he was. And it was just such a sad story, because he was such a young man. Well, what I want to focus on in Kobe's career right now was, and just a little background, if you don't know who Kobe Bryant is, he was a phenom basketball athlete. At 17, 18 years old, he was drafted to the NBA. He was leading the league in scoring. He won 5 championships. But what I want to key in today is, after 17 years in the league, Kobe Bryant had a traumatic experience, and what I would consider a loss. And so what I want to do is just take a bird's eye view, or not a bird's eye view, but a lawyer's eye view into how he dealt with that, and see if we can compare that and bring it into the lawyer field just a little bit. So I am going to try for the first time in my career, my legal career, to try to share a screen, and I hope that it works. All right, let's see if I can do this. Am I sharing it, Becca?
You are. Looks good.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So as you can see, Mr. Kobe Bryant, he goes down and he's grabbing his ankle, And again, this is 17 years into the league. At this particular point in time, he would say he was playing some of his best ball. Keep in mind that professional athletes and basketball players, their lifespan is generally between 7 to 10 years, maybe at best. I mean, your superior athletes, they'll go 12 to 13 years. Don't quote me. I think Jordan may have went about 11 or 12 years, and he's thought to be one of the best players of all time. But Kobe he was playing very, very good this game against the Golden State Warriors, and on a play where he kind of just falls, as you can see, he's kind of limping off, and you can see how tough he is. After he tears his Achilles, Mr. Kobe Bryant goes to the line and shoots his 2 free throws. Yeah, at this point, his Achilles is gone. I mean, this is an incredible moment. Just to let you know how much he persevered. And I'm going to stop it right there. So, I'll let it play a little bit more so you can just see. At this point, I'm not a doctor, but I know something is wrong. Kobe knows something is wrong. You can see, I don't know if at this point it's the actual physical pain that he feels or it's just the mental anguish, because Kobe Bryant is very self-aware. He knows that something is not right. I mean, I've seen this gentleman break his finger, go to the sidelines, and the trainer will just pull his finger out. He go back into the game. I've seen him take punches. I've seen him take elbows, but you can tell that something is going on. Oops, okay. Sorry about that. Sorry. Let me try to stop this for a minute. Okay, I'm back. So 17 years into Kobe Bryant's career, he gets this massive injury, and it is Achilles tear. And that night, if you follow his career, you will know that he's always been a very stoic guy. He was never the guy to give a lot to the fans as far as what he was really thinking or his pain or his happiness. Now, if he won, you may see that, but whenever he lost a game, he would go to the podium and he would give really, really, really short answers. But at this time, Kobe Bryant, for the first time, I would say the first time in his career, actually gave us himself in a Facebook post that he made. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read a little bit to you guys because it shocked the world, because Kobe Bryant was not the guy that would give you the edge enough to know what was going on. And this is what he said. The night after he tore his Achilles, this is such BS. All the training and sacrifice just flew out of the window with one step that I've done millions of times. The frustration is unbearable. The anger is rage. Why the hell did this happen? Makes no sense. Now I'm supposed to come back from this and be the same player or better at 35? How in the world am I supposed to do that? I have no clue. Do I have the consistent will to overcome this thing? Maybe I should break out the rocking chair and reminisce on the career that was. Maybe this is how the books end. Maybe Father Time has defeated me. Then again, maybe not. So the whole world was taken by storm by the injury, but then by his statements, because this was not something that Kobe would give us. But what we can say is at some point, he felt like he had to get this information out. Something about that Achilles injury was traumatic enough where Kobe felt like, I just can't take this anymore. I have to let everybody know. I need to let everybody know how I feel, and not only just a family member, but I'm going to put this out for the people to see on social media. Now, because the coronavirus has allowed us so much time to look up different, to give me the opportunity to look up different things about trauma, I was able to find some information about Army veterans and what actually happens when they are at war and how they deal with it when they're at war. Okay. I'm in the third box now, guys. Just so you know, we have the first box, we have the second box, I'm in the third box. Right now, I'm talking about trauma and how people deal with trauma or a loss. Any questions? Am I doing good? No questions?
Not yet. Nope.
Okay. All right. So, and what I found was that after military veterans come back from war, if they do not talk about what happened, even though they try to not discuss it, they say that it will drive them crazy. I have one statement here that says you will literally drive yourself crazy not to think about it. You will literally drive yourself down the path of mental illness. You got to make this peace with your memory. You got to separate the memory of that event with emotions associated with it. One of the techniques that is therapeutic would be like grass fire. And so he just goes on to talk about how just being able to have a beer with a friend and discuss what was going on is therapeutic, because if you don't get that release from talking about it, then you'll drive yourself crazy. All right. So what I am going to do now is come back to Mr. Kobe Bryant, and we just want to talk. We focused on him venting, and what happened after that was he went and got a surgery. Kobe was out of the NBA for a year and a half. And so after he had the surgery, he's training. Of course, all the cameras are following him, and I'm going to share my screen for the last time, and I'm going to let you guys see a statement that Kobe made right before he came back. So he would be about 35 years old now, and this is what he had to say. Should be a little bit better this time because it's my second time. All right, so I'm going to go out of here. All right, guys, I don't know how to use my own computer. Okay, there we go. It is. Okay, yes. All right. Oh my goodness, I can't turn the volume on unless you guys hear it. Can it? Will it let it play so you guys can hear it, or will it just be me talking?
Let's just give it a shot. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It is silent. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Cool. I'll stop sharing. Sorry about that. Okay. So I will tell you what Kobe said because I wrote it down. It's in my notes. Kobe said that they asked him, "How do you feel about the surgery?" Kobe said, "I've never had a year and a half off of basketball before. I feel refreshed. I feel like if I get on that court, I should be able to do my thing because I've never been able to reset like this." He said, "I'm going to control what I can control." He said, "There have been situations in my life that were much more serious than this, much more serious, and I was able to overcome." So I think in the scale of things throughout my whole career, I think my work speaks for itself. Kobe said, also a thing that he did was he said, "Hey, listen, this is not about me being old and washed up because I was playing at my highest level before I got the injury. So if I come back and I can't play well, it's not because I'm old, it's just because I don't deserve to be here." So he took the excuses away from him, and he wasn't afraid to fail. He said, the last thing he said is, "All right, guys, I guess we'll just see." One big thing that I definitely am going to focus on is the time, but before I jump to that, I want to talk about one advantage that Kobe had over lawyers. Now I'm jumping back into the second box again. When Kobe tore his Achilles, he went to a surgeon, and the surgeon gave him a particular regimen training that he had to do. And I'm sure he followed that regimen and did everything he was supposed to do over that year and a half along with his training. Okay. Now, as lawyers, when we suffer a loss, we don't have an Achilles to go to the surgeon to repair. We have to do our own self-analysis or awareness and be aware of what's going on with ourselves, because there's not a direct injury. So we go back, and I'll give you a personal example from myself. 3 years into my practice, I started my own firm in my hometown of Elizabeth City, North Carolina. About 2.5 years after that, I was presented with an opportunity to go and work on a contract with a big entity in North Carolina. So, and at the same time, my wife was having our second baby, and it seemed like it was a good idea. And I think ultimately it was a good idea to go. But what I ended up doing was leaving my practice, even though I still had the first office, and moving to another town about an hour and 45 minutes away. So I was working on that contract, and I wasn't doing as much work as I was doing in my hometown. Well, 2 years into that contract, with 5 days notice, the entity lets me know that they're no longer going to offer the contract, and that I'm no longer going to be paid anymore on the contract. So on the first, they let me know on the 5th, you're not getting a check, and you won't get another check. And for all intents and purposes, I was counting on that check and that contract for like the next year and a half. So I went from thinking that I was going to get a check on the 5th to not being able to get that check on the contract for another year and a half. So at this point, I have 2 offices that I'm running. I have an attorney that's working for me, and I have 2 to 3 staff. And I also have a family and all the other things that we deal with at the time. So I would consider this somewhat of an Achilles tear. And so how did I deal with it? At first, I was very, very, very quiet about the matter. I was kind of shocked. I realized that whatever process that was going to take place, if the entity was going to have to pay me some money later on, that wasn't going to help me pay my bills or the firm bills in the next couple of days. And there were some other things that were going on at the same time that were big. So what Johnny did, I was like, man, I can't handle all this. I was able to get in contact with a counselor, and I started going to counseling, because I was like, man, this is just, I don't know what I need to do, but I need to talk to somebody about this, because it was a new territory. And that was the whole crazy thing about it. When it was happening, with the stress on my back and what we've been using, it felt just like another thing. But I was like, I know this is big, but the way that I'm interpreting this information, it doesn't feel like it is as big as what I know it is. And at the same time, of course, clients still have their problems, and you still have to talk to them. So I went and I talked to a counselor, and the first thing that we did, well, for the first 5-6 sessions, is as I spoke to him, I just talked to him. That's all I did. I just talked. He didn't really say too much to me at all. Now that I think about it, I think he just sat there, and that was kind of interesting, but that was the rant, I guess, that I needed, that I didn't know that I needed, that Kobe gave to us through Facebook, that the military gentleman talks about, that you just have to get it out. And that's not normal. That's not normal culturally for me. I don't know, as a man, if we feel comfortable talking about our feelings. I, for one, I didn't see what it would help. Normally, to speak out and talk about what's going on with myself, unless that person was able to fiscally help me, I didn't see what the purpose would serve. But through talking with him, I knew every time I left, I felt better. I don't know if he gave me any solutions, but I felt better about the situation. Are there any questions at all?
Nope. Just a few random comments, but other than that, we're doing good.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. All right. I can't see the random comments.
I'm monitoring our Facebook group.
Okay. Are they saying I'm doing a good job?
Yes.
Okay. So at this particular point in time, after about 5 or 6 sessions, I'm speaking with a gentleman, and he starts to share a little bit with me about himself. And this gentleman, I said that I never had any issues before, man. He'd been through the storm. He'd been through the storm, and he shared with me some things that I was like, oh man, you know, I might be okay. I actually may be okay because, you know, things that you were telling me that you recovered from mentally, I feel like I'm pretty self-aware. And he was like, Johnny, well, you know, you're really self-aware, but you need to watch out for these triggers. You have certain triggers that let you know that you're not dealing with stress. And so what I'll do now is I'll just kind of open everybody up to what I know as my personal triggers. And the reason why we need to know what our mental health triggers are is because if we're seeing these signs, that means that we're dealing with our stress the wrong way. And if we continue to do that, what'll happen is you'll lock up. And for some people, what that means is you'll wake up in the morning and you won't be able to move. That's never happened to me. But what happens to me is I go into complete autopilot, meaning that I may go 1 to 2 to 3 months on autopilot where I'm not physically, or I may be physically present, but I'm not mentally present, meaning I'm speaking with people and they think that I'm there. I'm talking with judges, I'm talking with clients, I'm signing paperwork, I'm drafting motions. And then when I go back later and look at the work I've done, I feel like, what the hell is this? Like it may be a form, a simple form that I'm filling out where with the county, my name, the address, and then a checkbox. But for some reason, when I was filling that out on auto mode, it was not correct. And that's not even legal work. That's filling out forms because I'm on autopilot. So I have to watch these certain triggers that I have to let me know if I'm not dealing with stress the correct manner. And I learned this in counseling through having conversations with this gentleman. And these are my stress indicators. One is I have an alarm that I set for 5:30 every day. If every day I'm still getting up an hour to an hour and a half after I set my alarm when I went in bed, that means that I am craving sleep and I don't want to, I'm not excited about my day and I just want to stay in bed. So that lets me know, not the first day, because sometimes you're just tired. But if every day I'm craving not starting my day, and craving is probably not the right word, but if I'm in a situation where I want to stay in bed longer, that's one indicator. My second indicator is if my assistant calls me and says that I have a consult. Now, consults for lawyers are the ways that we make our money, so we want consults. And I'm like, oh man, I got a consult today. If I'm not looking forward to that, if I'm not looking forward to calling and speaking with my client, if at the end of the day when I go home, I don't want to talk to my wife, man. I love my wife to death, but what happens is the more stress that I deal with, the less I want to do anything at home. So at some point, I hope she never sees this, but I would actually make my day longer in the evening so that when I got home, we could put the kids in the bathtub and then I could kind of go to bed and not have to worry about, extra conversations. And that's not good at all. And I mean, who knows how long I was actually on this autopilot that I'm telling you guys about. Any time where it was an issue, where there was a social time, if I was having a beer, but I was drinking more than I normally would, I say on an average, if I go out to get something to eat, maybe I'll have one drink. If I'm constantly having 2 or 3, or if on Friday night, because Friday nights are, lawyer time, that is the time when my kids go to bed at night and I'm just sitting out on the back porch. I am looking at YouTube and all of the wonderful things that all my lawyer friends are doing. And if I stay up to 3 o'clock in the morning drinking, I know that there's an issue because I should be in the bed around 12:15 to 1 o'clock. Of course, after you do that, then there's the whole day or the whole week that you have to pay for it because you hung over. But anyway, that is another one of my triggers. And I'm going through these just so you guys know that this is kind of like my framework that I'm working through. And even today, while I'm speaking with you, I'm still working through my framework. So this is hopefully helpful for you, but also helpful for me. Do I have any questions?
Well, Will Norman just said, are you designing a training regime? He said a daily set of small improvements to get back in the game stronger than you left it.
Yes, 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 yes. Thanks, Will. Okay, I'm not going to steal the fourth box yet, but thank you, Will. I appreciate that, and I definitely will get to that. Okay, so here we are. We get through the situation personally with the firm, the contract that I had, all the issues that I've had, and everything is feeling subnormal. I'm back in the gym a little bit more. I'm exercising a little bit more. I'm spending more time with my kids. Now, this fourth box is one. What's my time, Becca? How am I doing my time?
You know, I was just trying to look that up, but we're good. We are
Okay,
good. Yeah.
okay. So we're moving into the fourth and final box, and this is the one that involves everyone. What Kobe Bryant said, going back to the second box, was that he had a year and a half off from basketball to completely rejuvenate his mind and his body and his spirit. We'll just put that in there. Well, we've all been blessed with the time now. If you're practicing law, there are certain things that the government has said that means that you have time now that you'll probably never have again. I know for one, I have until June 1st. We stopped court the middle of March. So the middle of March was when we had when I found out that we would have some time off, and at that day, like, the light went off. And so what I would say, guys, is with these steps that Will talked about, is we need to use this not year and a half, but this 6 to 8 to 9 to 10 weeks unplanned to make sure that Kobe Bryant came back from basketball. He had 2 or 3 or 4 years left. So he was in the fourth quarter of his career when he got hurt. Now, you may be a newer lawyer like myself. I've been practicing 7 years, or you may be 15 or 20 years in the game. You may be in the second quarter, the third quarter, the fourth quarter. But what I would say is there's a time that we've been allotted right now to reset the course, and we probably will never get this time again. So the steps that Will was talking about that I have been taking since we have this time, and there are 5 of them. One, every day I sit down and I reevaluate my goals. I reevaluate what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. 2, the first week, I took an inventory of everything that I had. Took an inventory of everything that I had because during the course of law practice, we accumulate a lot of stuff and we get involved with a lot of things that we either can't finish or need to finish, or just things that we need to throw away. So I went in the first week and I just took an inventory of what I had. I found a lot of cool toys, by the way, a lot of microphones and cameras that I didn't even remember that I had. But it's important that we take an inventory of our staff, of our systems at work, our office systems, how much we're spending for them. Excuse me. Thirdly, looking at your circle and your support group. One thing that my counselor always let me know, and one thing I kind of always knew, was that I could tell what I was doing by who I was with most of the time. Like when I am online with you guys, that is some of the best times that I have mentally, because you guys are always encouraging each other. We're always encouraging each other. Like-minded individuals dealing with the same level of stress, not normal stress. So when I'm with you guys, I feel like I'm on target. So, who is my group? Who is my team going forward? And how do I make sure that I continue to cultivate those relationships and still at the same time reach back and have, for me personally, I need at least 2 to 3 people that I'm helping that are either in law school or new or lawyers, to continue to be in community with, because while I am learning, I also want to put people in a position where they don't have to worry about having those moments where they're on autopilot like I was at one point. Fourth, the discipline. Well, you talked about I'm back in the gym more. My health is better. I'm spending more time with my kids. Obviously, I have the time to spend with my kids. My spiritual devotions that I do, I'm making sure that I'm on those, trying to make sure that I can restart habits and be disciplined on them, and making sure that what time I set my alarm for, I'm actually doing. I'm trying not to be in sweatpants every day, but at this point, I have not been able to do that because it feels like a vacation. And I think the fifth thing that this time has allowed me, and it should allow everybody, really, really opportunity to dream again. Because when you don't have the clog of the next thing is, okay, I have court tomorrow morning, and then I have to see clients, and then I have to pay bills. When you don't have that clog, it gives you the opportunity to say, hold up, how do we take this information that we have and really dream? Think about personally why I'm here, what I'm supposed to be doing, why I think that I'm here, why someone has put us here in this situation. And think about why, from the loss that we may have incurred. When I looking back over the loss that I took, which was more of a financial one than anything else, when I actually looked at it closely, I saw during that time, we were able to do as a firm and as a team a lot of great things, a lot of great cases, and gain a lot of great experience. And then the question is, okay, based off that dream, I now have more time than I'll ever have to try to implement it. And as a lawyer, we're so systematic anyway that if we just take 5 hours out of our week, certainly it can push us towards that part. So that is recovering from a loss, what I know from a mental aspect. That's all I have, Becca. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
That was so good. I don't think that we have any more questions. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll hop off the live.
Okay.
Let me make sure that all right, so we're good to go. Just you and I back here. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So I'm going to, just the way that all panned out and everything, I'm going to ask Tyson and Jim, only if you're okay with it though. I don't know if you will be or not. Would you want that to be a podcast episode, or is that some of those that you're like, nah?
No. I'm actually fine with sharing it everywhere in the world. I just didn't want my audience to see it.
Sure.
I mean, they may, yeah, that's just the whole thing. Everybody else in the world is fine. Just on the live feed, I just didn't want to, so if later on they go by and they listen to it, then it's fine. But I'm just not going to directly put it out there for them. So sure.
Awesome. I'm going to talk about that because just the way you laid that all out there and how smooth it went, I think it would go great on a podcast too. So I'll see what I can do with that. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.